who's ready to snuggle up with a good book? Hey there, it's Mitzi. Welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you about some of my wintry reads. And these books are all set in the wintertime. And even more than that, they all have winter in the title. So that's why I chose these books off my shelf. And the other day I was going through my shelves trying to figure out what I wanted to read in January. Because during December I read mostly Christmas related books, but I wanted some wintry type books to read in January. And so as I was looking through my list of books on my shelf, I thought, wow, I have a lot of books with the word winter in it. So I thought I would share some of those books from my shelves that I have that have the word winter in the title. Now, some of these I've read and some of these I plan on reading in January. And then one book I actually checked out from the library to read just because I saw the word winter and I decided I would check it out. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first book is one I've already talked about just recently, and that is a little picture book called A Walt One Winter Night by Al Andrews. And I love this little book. Someone had recommended it to me this past year, so I picked it up. Again, it's a picture book, so you can read it in one sitting. And it's really a beautiful book about the true meaning of Christmas. And so if you haven't read this one, it has some beautiful little pencil drawings in it that I just think are beautiful. And I'm trying to find one that really details it. I like that one a lot. But this book has text on one side and then illustrations on the other, and they're little pencil drawing type, very simple type illustrations. But the illustrations go well with the message of this story. It's about a man who is walking one winter night, and he's looking at all the Christmas decorations and thinking about the hustle and bustle of Christmas. And he stops at this nativity scene, and it's those plastic sort of nativity scenes that you see that are popular. And he starts thinking about the truth behind these plastic sort of blow mold type pieces and the characters within the nativity, and the reality of this story, that it's real, that it's true. And it's really just a sweet little message, and it's a good one to just stop and read during Christmas time. But of course you could read this any time of the year, because just as Scrooge knows, we should be celebrating Christmas all year long and keeping Christmas in our heart all the year through. So if you don't get to this one at Christmas, maybe you could pick it up for next Christmas, or you could read it just in the winter. But I did want to mention that one since it did have winter in the title. Another one that I had on my shelf that I've read before, I think I read this last winter, and it's called Winter and Rough Weather by D.E. Stevenson. Now, this is part of a series, but I read this out of order and I was just fine reading it. And I really enjoyed this because there is a blizzard in this. The scene with the blizzard is perfect for winter time. It's really a descriptive book anyway. If you've read D.E. Stevenson, you know how descriptive she can be and how she really sets the tone of a story and makes you feel like you're there. Well, the blizzard is just a great scene in here. But the whole book is filled with beautiful village life and winter scenes, and so I highly recommend this. I think this actually has a different title. I think I have it actually on my shelf by a different title. If it is, I'll try to remember to put the title down somewhere on here, but I'll look at that. But I think that I have this in another title, another book, a hardcover of this, that's a vintage book that is the same story but by another title. I don't know why they do that, but sometimes the American and the British versions are different titles, but I'll check on that to make sure. But this one, Winter and Rough Weather, I highly recommend this, especially if you like D.E. Stevenson's writing. You would enjoy this one. Anything about small village life, and it's just that cozy wintry feel, you might like that one. Another one that I always recommend at this time of year is Winter Solstice by Rosamund Pilcher. I read this a couple of years ago, and it is the perfect read the week after Christmas, but anytime in the winter is perfect because it has that feel. It does there's a lot about Christmas. I think it ends on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, around that time, and it is a perfect winter read. It is very heartwarming, and I just love this book. I need to revisit this one soon. Every time I pick this book up, I want to just stop and read it again. So it's really that good of a book. If you like heartwarming, beautiful stories about found family type stories, you would love this one. So I highly recommend Winter Solstice. Another fun one that I read last year was Agatha Christie's Midwinter Murder. This is just a collection of murder mysteries written by Agatha Christie, and I really enjoyed this one. And look at the cover of that. I tried collecting these, and now I have every season of this collection, and they're just beautiful with the gold embossing and all on them. I just thought it was a beautiful cover. But it has a lot of great short stories in it too, so you might want to curl up with a good short story. And of course, Agatha Christie is the queen of mystery, so you would definitely find one in here, I think, that you would find as a favorite. The next one I read last year, Winter is Not Forever by Jeanette Oak. This is part of a series. It's called Seasons of the Heart series. There are 4, and each one is titled with a season. So there is a spring, summer, winter, and a fall, autumn, one of these. And I really enjoyed this series. I do recommend reading these in order. They are not necessarily to read at winter time, but the tone of this one is set in winter. It's told from a young boy's perspective, and by the time we get to this one, he's a young man. And I just love this series, and I want to read it again. It's very heartwarming, heartfelt. It is Christian fiction, but it's inspirational and encouraging and hope-filled. No matter whether you're a Christian or not, if you like those kind of books, I think you would enjoy this one. Of course, we love anything to do with Laura Ingalls Wilder's Little House on the Prairie, and this is The Long Winter. This one is one of my favorite in the series. On the back it says, on the empty winter prairie, gray clouds to the northwest meant only one thing: a blizzard was seconds away. The first blizzard came in October. It snowed almost without stopping until April. The temperature dropped to 40 below, snow reached the rooftops, and no trains could get through with food and coal. The townspeople began to starve. The Ingalls family barely lived through the winter, and Almanzo Wilder knew he would have to risk his life to save the town. And that's what happens in this story. But it's a beautiful story told just as Laura Ingalls Wilder tells all of the stories in this series. And I highly recommend The Long Winter if you haven't read it. Or if you've read the series, just pick this one up during the winter time. Now this one I read too, but it wasn't, I will just be honest, it wasn't my favorite book. But if you like magic realism type books with a little fantasy kind of feel to it, you might enjoy this one. It's called The Winter Sea by Susanna Kearsley. This was highly recommended to me. I think I would have enjoyed this more if I knew more about the history. This is about the Jacobites in like the 1700s, and I know nothing about that history. So there was a lot of that in here, and I was clueless about a lot of that. So I think that hindered me in the reading of this story. Maybe if I knew a little bit more about it, I would have appreciated what was going on in this story a little bit more, because it is a chunky read. But if you do enjoy that type of story, because in this one what happens is she is a writer, she writes fiction, and as she's writing the story, she feels like she's been there before. And come to find out, a lot of the things that she's writing that she's just making up in her head are from history. So that's where the, kind of magical realism comes in, or fantasy type a story comes into play in this particular novel. And it was interesting in that aspect, but again, I'm not familiar with that part of history, so I was a little, I don't know, maybe confused, and I think that just hindered me in this. But if you like that part of history, the Jacobites and all of that during the 1700s, Scottish history, you may love this one. Now this is one that I really enjoyed. I've had this book for years. I mean, I've had it for a long time, and I revisit it. This one may come as a surprise to you because it is romance. It's Christian romance, but what I like about this one is it is some novellas. It is 3 novellas, and it's called Winter Brides. And there are 3 different stories in this book, and there's one in here that I have read so many times. It's called A December Bride, and they actually made a Hallmark movie of that one, and I like the Hallmark movie okay, but the story is better. So if you do like The December Bride, I don't know if that's the name of the movie or not. I'll have to look back and see. It has the guy from When Calls the Heart. He plays the love interest in that one. But it's just a precious little story, and I have read it several times and I've enjoyed it. And coming from someone who doesn't read a lot of romance, that's saying something. But for me, it's the perfect Hallmark Christmas type little love story. So I do enjoy revisiting these. And I enjoyed all three in this collection. Actually, Deborah Rainey is one that wrote one of the stories in here, and I'm friends with Deborah Rainey. She is a wonderful person, and she writes wonderful Christian fiction, and I know her personally, and so I was excited that she had one in this collection too. But I highly recommend Winter Brides during the winter season. Again, it's 3 novellas, so you could read one a night even. They're shorter stories, and I like that during this time of year. And again, they are just heartwarming Christian romances. Now, the next one is from a cozy mystery series. It's called Dying in a Winter Wonderland. This is part of the year-round Christmas mysteries, and I haven't read those yet. The first one is called Rest Ye Murdered Gentleman. I think that's what it's called. And I have that one, but I haven't read it. And I don't think this is the second, so I might not get to this one because I kind of wanted to read them in order. But I thought I would mention it since it did have winter in the title. And I'll have to see how far I get in the series because they are set around a Christmassy theme. I think they're throughout the year, but they all have a Christmassy theme to them because it's called Year-Round Christmas Mysteries. So I haven't tried it yet. Let me know if you've read these. I just love the idea of a year-round Christmas mystery and a cozy mystery too. So I thought this might be a fun one to try. Another one that I want to get to this year, I have had this book for, I know I had it last year and didn't get to it, but this is The Willows in Winter. And this is a continuation of The Wind in the Willows. And The Wind in the Willows is one of my all-time favorite books. I love reading that, and I've read it several times. And so I thought it might be fun to try this because this is the beginning of, I think it's a 4-part series of a continuation of The Wind in the Willows, the characters from that story, which I love. So this one is, I think, the first one, and it is set in the winter time. So I thought that would be perfect to try. So I do have this on my TBR for January. Let me know if you've read this one. And then I went to the library and I saw this book, and so I picked it up just because of the title. Let me know if you've read this too. It's called The Winter Garden by Nicola Cornick. And this one is, this is a large print. I don't like large print normally, but let's face it, I probably need to start choosing large print. But it says 1605, Anne Catesby's son Robert is secretly plotting to kill the king. Anne must make a terrible choice: betray her only child or risk her family's security and her very life. And then there is a dual timeline. So there is a present day where Lucy takes refuge in her family's ancestral home, and there, as she is there spending time in the winter garden, she starts having these visions of a woman from the Tudor times. And so I thought that might be a fun one, and of course the two timelines are going to come together at some point. So I thought that sounded interesting because I love historical fiction. I'm not usually big on the contemporary, but if it's more of the story from the historical time setting, then I will be interested in it. So let me know if you've read this one. It just sounded interesting, and of course it had winter, so it sounds perfect for this time of year. So I'm inserting this because I'd already turned off the camera and I didn't talk about this book, but I looked over on my shelf, my TBR for January, and there was another winter book. This one's called A Winter Away. It's one of those furrowed middle brow books. And I love these because these are books they're giving second chances to. A lot of books that are out of print now, and they're bringing them back. And you know how I'm about those old good vintage stories. So that's why I was excited about this. It's called A Winter Away by Elizabeth Fair. I love the cover, the nice wintry scene. It says young Maud has made her escape from an overbearing stepmother and come to stay with her cousin Alice and Alice's companion Miss Conway in the countryside. I'm already excited about it. They have arranged a job for her as secretary to Mr. Finiston, a neighbor who seems to have driven his previous secretary to a nervous breakdown. So we're going to have some drama there. I think that she is spending her winter season with these friends in, out in the country somewhere, and of course I think she's going to be working on Mr. Finiston's library, organizing his library. So of course books, it's in the winter and it's in a little country village. Of course I'm going to be excited to read that one. Let me know if you've read this one. I haven't heard anything about it, but I do like these furrowed middlebrow books, and so I'm excited to try this one. So those are the books that I have right now on my shelf. One, of course, I had chosen from the library that have winter in the title, that are perfect for this time of year. Let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know if you know of another book that you think I would enjoy with winter in the title. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.